Welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to be tackling a topic that I think a lot of people are interested in and maybe even a little intimidated by. We're talking about making a home more dementia-friendly. We've got this really great guide here all about practical modifications you can make to your house.
Yeah, it's a pretty in-depth resource.
So our mission today, I guess, is to kind of help you make sense of it all, figure out which changes might be most important for your situation.
Right.
Maybe spark some ideas that you wouldn't have thought of on your own. Because, I mean, we've all heard the basics, right? Like grab bars in the bathroom.
Sure.
But this guide goes way deeper than that.
It does. It really emphasizes the connection between a person's environment and their overall well-being. You know, how those adaptations can actually make a real difference in their quality of life.
Even potentially delaying the need for residential care, which I know is something a lot of people are worried about.
Absolutely, yeah.
So what really jumped out at you from this guide?
Well, one of the things that they highlight is this distinction between what they call major adaptations and minor adaptations.
Okay, so like what?
So major adaptations are things like installing a stair lift, if you have stairs, obviously.
Right.
Or maybe even adding a whole new bathroom to the house.
Wow.
Big projects.
Those are big.
But the guide makes this interesting point, that if you're planning to be in the home long term, doing those adaptations earlier, while the person is still in the earlier stages of dementia, can actually be more beneficial.
Really? Why is that?
Yeah. So apparently, in the earlier stages, people are generally more adaptable to change.
Oh, interesting.
So getting those big modifications done early can actually make the transition a lot smoother.
That makes sense.
Less disruption later on.
So you're kind of getting ahead of the curve.
Exactly.
So then what are some examples of those minor adaptations?
Minor adaptations would be things like adding handrails in strategic spots, maybe a small ramp at the entrance, a shower seat, things that are generally easier to implement but can still have a big impact on safety and independence.
Gotcha. You know, one of the things that really fascinated me in this guide was the section on color psychology.
Oh, yeah.
I never realized how much color could actually impact someone with dementia.
It's amazing, right? The guide talks about how visual perception can change as dementia progresses.
Okay.
So things like contrast become really important. For example, using contrasting colors for door handles, light switches, makes them much easier to see.
So it's not just about aesthetics, it's actually about functionality.
Exactly.
I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, like a white light switch on a white wall, for someone with dementia, that can be almost invisible.
Oh, wow.
But if you put a dark-colored switch plate on, suddenly there's that contrast, and it's much easier to find.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
They also talked about using different color schemes in different rooms, right?
They did, yeah.
What was that about?
So the idea is that you can use color to create different moods and atmospheres in different parts of the house.
Okay.
Warm, dimmer lighting in the bedroom can promote relaxation.
Makes sense.
Encourage sleep.
Right.
Whereas brighter, more stimulating colors in the living room might help with engagement and activity during the day.
That's like creating a sensory map of the house. I mean, it's so simple, but most people wouldn't even think about it.
Right. It really is. It's about thinking about the environment in a whole new way.
Yeah. Creating that environment that really supports someone and helps them navigate the world more easily.
Absolutely.
Speaking of navigating, there was one thing in here that really surprised me. They talk about how mirrors can actually be a challenge for people with dementia.
It's true. And it's one of those things that you might not think about until you really start to consider the dementia experience.
So what's the problem with mirrors?
Well, someone with dementia might not recognize their own reflection.
So they might think it's a stranger in the house.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh.
And that can be very frightening, very disorienting.
Right.
The guide recommends a few different things you can do, like covering mirrors.
Oh, okay.
Or using non-shiny surfaces for things like cupboard doors.
Yeah.
And good lighting is important, too, to minimize reflections.
That makes sense.
It's all about reducing anything that could cause confusion or anxiety.
And then the guide kind of shifts gears a bit. And it starts talking about safety in a broader sense, not just physical hazards. And it touches on this really sensitive topic, vulnerability to scams, exploitation, things like that.
It's heartbreaking, but it's a reality that we have to talk about.
Yeah, it's hard.
People with dementia can be more trusting.
Right.
More easily misled, which makes them targets for people who, prey on vulnerable individuals.
It's scary to think about. What does the guide suggest in terms of how to protect someone?
They recommend practical steps, like getting advice from local police about common scams, using no cold caller stickers on the door, and even considering technology like doorbell cameras.
I mean, those are all great steps to take. And it seems like so much of this is about being proactive,
Yeah.
right? Thinking ahead, identifying potential problems, and then figuring out works to address them.
Absolutely. And that kind of leads us into the topic of falls, which is a huge concern for people with dementia. You would think the solution is to just keep people sitting as much as possible, but this guide actually takes the different approach.
Really?
Yeah, they emphasize the importance of encouraging movement to maintain muscle strength and balance.
Okay.
Because if someone's muscles are weak, they're actually more likely to fall, even just doing simple things like getting out of a chair.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense when you think about it.
Right. So it's about finding that balance between safety and encouraging activity.
Okay, so encouraging movement. What else do they suggest for preventing falls?
Well, they talk about proper footwear, shoes that provide good support and traction.
Right.
They also encourage you to really think about potential trip hazards, both inside and outside the home.
So like loose rugs,
Rugs.
uneven paving stones.
Absolutely. Cords running across the floor.
All of those things, yeah.
You know, it seems like bathrooms are a really big focus in this guide.
Bathrooms are key for a lot of reasons. I mean, it's not just about practical safety features like grab bars and non-slip mats, although those are important, of course.
Yeah.
But the guide really goes into this whole sensory experience of the bathroom.
What do they mean by that?
Well, they talk about using familiar smells, things that the person might be used to, like a specific brand of soap or lotion,
I would never have thought of that, but that's interesting.
and even considering their preferred towel texture.
Wow. The little things.
Little things can make a big difference, yeah.
Yeah. I remember reading in there, they even talked about the sound of taps.
Yeah. The guide suggests that for some people, the familiar sound of running water can actually be quite comforting.
So maybe swapping out those modern silent taps for something more traditional.
Exactly.
Huh. I'm learning so much. It's amazing how something so small can have such a big impact. It really is. It just goes to show you how much we can do to create a more supportive and comfortable environment for people with dementia.
It really does. It's making me rethink how we design and experience our homes.
Absolutely.
There's definitely a lot more to talk about here.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack.
This is great.
This is really good stuff. Yeah, it really is amazing how those little details can make such a huge difference.
And that seems especially important in the bedroom.
Mhm.
You know, what kind of tips does the guide have for making that space more dementia-friendly?
One of the biggest things they emphasize is routine.
Okay.
Keeping things in the same place can really help reduce anxiety and just make it easier for someone to navigate their space.
That makes sense.
Okay.
I mean, if you're constantly having to search for things,
Mhm.
you know, that would definitely be frustrating.
Absolutely. And it goes beyond just furniture placement.
Okay.
They even mention things like drawing the curtains before it gets dark in winter
Oh.
to prevent window reflections at night.
Oh, yeah. I could see how that would be disorienting, especially if someone's already feeling confused.
Exactly. And then they also suggest having a chair by the bed for stability while getting dressed,
Okay.
which is a simple but helpful tip.
And I imagine it's important to make sure the bedroom is well lit, too, especially at night.
Absolutely. Good lighting is key.
Yeah.
They recommend using night lights or even just leaving the bathroom light on.
Okay.
So there's enough light to navigate safely if someone needs to get up during the night.
We were just talking about how important the bathroom is.
Yeah.
And it seems like this guide really goes into a lot of detail about making that space safe and comfortable.
It does. It really dives deep into all the different aspects of bathroom design.
So it's not just about grab bars and non-slip mats.
Right. It's about those sensory considerations we were talking about before.
Like using familiar smells and textures.
Exactly. But it also talks about temperature control,
Okay.
making sure the room is warm enough, especially if someone's taking a bath or shower.
Yeah. And on the flip side, making sure things like heated towel rails aren't too hot to prevent burns.
Absolutely. Those are things we might not think about, but they can be real hazards for someone with dementia.
And I remember them talking about using contrasting colors in the bathroom, too.
Yes, to make things easier to see.
Like a black toilet seat on a white toilet.
Exactly.
And non-slip mats.
Non-slip mats are crucial both inside and outside the shower.
And what about door locks?
Oh, yeah, they talk about that too. They suggest having a lock that can be opened from the outside in case of an emergency.
Right. So you can get in if you need to.
It's about finding that balance between safety and independence.
Right.
You want to give someone as much autonomy as possible, but you also need to be able to intervene if necessary.
And of course, keeping medications and cleaning products safely locked away.
Absolutely, minimizing any potential hazards.
It's amazing how much thought goes into creating a dementia-friendly home.
Yeah.
You know, it's really impressive.
It really is, and it's not just about the physical space either. It's about understanding the challenges someone with dementia is facing and finding ways to support them.
In every aspect of their life.
Exactly.
I noticed the guide doesn't really talk much about the kitchen, though.
That's true. It doesn't go into a lot of detail about the kitchen specifically.
But I guess we can apply a lot of the same principles we've been talking about.
Absolutely.
Like using contrasting colors.
Yeah, to make appliances and utensils easier to see.
And minimizing clutter.
Clutter can be a big problem for people with dementia, so keeping things organized and tidy is really important.
Makes sense. What about safety in the kitchen?
Well, making sure knives are stored safely, keeping cords out of the way, maybe even opting for appliances with automatic shutoff features.
Oh, that's a good idea.
It's all about reducing risk.
It sounds like there's a lot to consider.
There is, but it's all about making those small adjustments that can really make a big difference.
Yeah, creating an environment that is both safe and stimulating.
Right. A place where someone with dementia can still feel a sense of independence and purpose.
You know, we've talked a lot about those sensory connections in the home.
Yeah.
We've talked about smells and sounds. But what about touch? You know, does the guide mention anything about that?
They do. It's funny you should mention that because they actually talk quite a bit about the importance of comfortable and familiar textures.
Oh, really?
Yeah, think soft blankets, favorite pillows, or even just like that well-worn armchair that someone has always loved.
Oh, yeah.
Those tactile sensations can be so grounding and reassuring.
I'm realizing how much we take those things for granted,
Right.
But for someone with dementia, it can make all the difference.
Absolutely. And I think one of the most important takeaways from this guide is that it's not a one-size-fits-all approach.
Right.
What works for one person might not work for another.
Yeah, and as dementia progresses, their needs are going to change. So
Absolutely.
you got to be flexible,
You got to be adaptable, and that's what this guide really encourages you to be observant, to try different things, and pay attention to what the individual responds to. What brings them comfort? What causes confusion or distress? It's like being a detective in a way.
Yeah.
Figuring out what works best for that specific person.
It's an ongoing process, right?
It is. There's no finish line when it comes to creating a dementia-friendly home.
So true.
It's a journey of love and care and ongoing adaptation.
It is.
And it can be so rewarding when you see the positive impact it has.
This deep dive has really opened my eyes to the importance of thinking beyond the obvious when it comes to creating a supportive environment. It's not just about grab bars and non-slip mats.
It's so much more than that.
It's about so much more.
It's about understanding the experience of dementia and responding with compassion and creativity and a commitment to making someone's world a little brighter, a little safer, and a little more filled with joy.
That actually brings up something that I haven't seen mentioned in this guide, but I feel like it kind of connects with everything we've been talking about. What about sensory gardens?
Oh, that's a fantastic idea. We've talked so much about sensory input. And a garden could be such a rich and engaging environment.
Right. I'm picturing like fragrant flowers, herbs that release their scent when you brush against them, wind chimes that create soothing sounds, different textures like soft grass, smooth stones.
It's about creating that multisensory experience that can stimulate the senses, evoke positive memories, provide a peaceful retreat.
And again, it ties back to that idea of personalization, right?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of garden would bring this person joy?
Exactly.
What plants did they love? What colors and textures would appeal to them? I think this deep dive has given us so much to think about.
It really has. And for those of you listening, as you kind of embark on this journey of creating a dementia-friendly home, remember to embrace the power of observation and experimentation and personalization. Think about sensory gardens. Think about the unique needs and preferences of the person you're caring for.
Yeah.
And let their insights guide you. You can create a space that truly feels like home.